For me, I have still been playing quite a bit of Dark Souls 3. Onto a third playthrough now. I've done it twice already.
How many times are you going to play it, or do you plan on playing it?
At least once more.
Probably until he dies. Like, literally dies.
I wanted to start like just a PvP character, because there's kind of like a range of levels that work best for, if you want to invade or be summoned here and do this. Because like the thing about the multiplayer is it only works within like a certain range of levels. Like if you're too high, you can't invade lower level people, obviously. And you can't be summoned to like help anybody. Just if you're like super overpowered on like New Game Plus 7 at level 200 and they're like trying to start at the beginning, you can't go in and just ruin everything. So I was gonna make a new, like a PvP centric character and ride it to like level 90 and then stop. And that's the character I'll probably play the most. Like that's what I did with Dark Souls. I played through enough times that I saw like the endings and got the items and did all the stuff I wanted to do, and then I made a PvP character that sat for, 300 hours in an area and just killed people, which is what I'll do. So playing through the actual story of the game, probably like, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 more times. And I hope to ride the PvP train into whatever they do next for the most part.
So as a Dark Souls noob, what is the idea of playing the game this many times? Like, what? Like, are you just focusing on PvP stuff, or what are you getting out of it?
I mean, there's, the trophies for the 3 endings for this one, so you should play through 3 times unless you want to be a bitch.
And I'm going to. I'm just curious about whether I'm going to do it on New Game Plus or with a fresh character.
Hey, I'm going to play through twice. I just cheese the 2 of the endings.
Because there's one that you can't do that way, so which is cool. But there's a lot of +1 items, like rings and stuff, that you can only find in New Game Plus.
But that's just +1, so like, but you're on your 3rd run, right?
Yeah, it stops the items don't change after that. But it will get continually harder up until like New Game Plus 7 usually is where the cap is.
Jesus.
Like health pools will, double. Like I feel like the health pools on New Game Plus are nearing doubled from the first. Like playing through New Game Plus felt like playing through Dark Souls 1 again. Like I don't know what it was about how the health pools worked or how the resistances worked on the first playthrough, but bosses weren't really hard to like chip away at.
They were not. I'm with you so far on that. Boss fights have been pretty easy, I think, with the exception of maybe one boss so far.
It kind of does that way at the end. It does kind of go up a tad bit, but on New Game Plus, like even, the first like tutorial boss had like a bunch more health than he would have.
Okay.
And so it felt, I still did it easily. It took me, I don't know, probably less than like 8 hours, but they still had like a ton of health. You just have to be really patient because they do hit really hard.
I bet.
So New Game Plus kind of felt like playing what I wished it would have been on the first go round, where it was like way harder. Boss fights weren't less than like 2 minutes like they are now, where you can just run into a room and smack them a bunch and roll and then kill them and then it's over. So playing through multiple times is to get, like all the miracles, say. There's a boss soul that does like 2 different things, and now in one playthrough you use it to do this, and the next time you have to use it to do that to get all the items.
That's cool.
So there's that. I mean, but other than that, it's just that I like playing the games. Like they're really fun to play. They just have great combat, and I like the PvP and all the co-op stuff you can do. It's always fun. So I mean, playing past New Game Plus 3 has just becomes arbitrary. So it's kind of up to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of replayability in that game that I want to see. Like that's the thing. I until I played this game, I didn't quite understand your complaints about how Bloodborne felt all the same, because I was like, whatever, it's still a fun game. But now I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's so many different ways I want to try coming at this game. Like I'm using a mercenary right now, so it's very straightforward. I hit fast and I roll a lot, and I'm probably never going to stop rolling a lot because rolling is
it's the way to play.
It's the way to play. Yeah, it's like fuck shields. Like that thing I was telling you, shields are for wussies because you just got to time that roll perfectly and use those invincibility frames, and nothing will ever hit you. And that's what I liked about Bloodborne too. I don't like being forced to kind of parry and block if I don't want to.
Hey, blocking is a fine way to play, and I got
blocking,
through
and I have used
just fine.
Definitely, there are certain bosses and enemies that has been the best way to fight them. But yeah, like I don't know, I like the reflex based stuff versus the more tactics based stuff. Like because shielding generally isn't as much of a timing thing as it is a remembering to do it thing.
It's also how much stamina you have before you
Yeah,
get
and
lost.
stamina magic.
No, I completely agree that I played the wussy way, but I beat the game, so that's what I was.
I know, and
happy with.
that was just a joke that I made, and Evan was like, "No, you fucking idiots, the other way around." I'm like, "No, I like rolls."
No, you were talking about parrying was for like noobs, and I was like, no. Parrying.
I just said it was for noobs. It takes skill. I just said it was for wussies because I like roll. There's something really funny to me about having people watch me, and I'm like, no, it's cool, and I just roll into somebody's sword because I'm like fucking invincible to frames, man. It's funny to me.
Dude, no, what you need to do is when you go to do PvP is put on some part of Kirk's set, which is the set of thorns, and your rolls do damage. So, in like PvP, someone will try and swing at you. You just roll into them, and it'll. Up.
That's really good.
It gives you like, I don't know, probably like 5 frames of them being kind of like jostled a bit to do something.
That's really
so
funny.
like
okay.
Yeah, when I was first going through and I was doing PvP in like the last area because it was a hotbed at the time because I had already beaten the game, but people were just kind of getting to that area. And so I'd just sit there and, invading, I would hit my little invade item, and it would be like, finding a world. Oh, we found one. And then it would go, like, super fast. And it was awesome.
I just realized, Jeremy, have you played any of the Dark Souls stuff? Because you're sitting here twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, I've played them. But, for sake of keeping my consoles alive and myself staying alive, I avoid them. I really want to get into Dark Souls 3.
They're not hard.
Yes, they
really
are.
No.
I played Dark Souls and I played Dark Souls 2, and I got locked at a few bosses that ended up pissing me off so much that I think it was my cousin's game. I said, Eric, who is my cousin, take this game before I break it, because if I break it, I'm not going to buy you another one.
See, there was a really, I thought, insightful article that went up on PC Gamer, I think, last week. It was just literally that. It was them like saying, hey, don't be scared by the people that say Dark Souls is hard. Because I don't know. I've played hard games. Dark Souls, don't get me wrong, Dark Souls, I fucking die a lot. But it never feels hard, I guess, because I'm like, with a couple exceptions, I hate the Pontiff boss fight. The Pontiff boss fight, I was like, I like the concept behind that fight. The thing I don't like about him is just the way he moves his arms. I would always think he was attacking. Like it's
exactly
really hard.
Why he does that is their animations are so odd in some of these strikes because
I know.
People,
and that's the thing. That's what I didn't like about him at all. Because I was like, and he's super fast. That's the other thing. He's a combination of he fakes you out all the time with fake moves.
He like flies
and
he like glides
he's
to the right or left.
Ridiculously fast. And then halfway through the fight, there's 2 of him.
Yeah, he creates like a shadow clone, and then you have to fight that too.
So another thing, I was having a hard time doing any damage to him, and then on my 10th run, I got him to about halfway, and then he spawned the second guy, and I was enraged. And then I beat him like 3 tries later because I figured out the trick to killing the ghost, which then makes him stand still and create a new one, which just lets you fucking beat the hell out of him. So I got him eventually.
You know what the trick is, Sam, is that he can be parried.
That too.
Like right out of the gate, you can run in and just ping, parry him.
Or
like,
if you have a shield, you can just stand there and do nothing.
I did start doing that at some point because that was how I beat him, because my strategy at first wasn't working.
Yeah, see, that to me was when the game started, was in that area. Because one thing about Dark Souls 3, it has a tutorial area, quote unquote, but it feels like the first like 10 or so hours of those early areas feel like kind of still introductory things.
See, I felt like the game started in the catacombs. Like that was for me,
which is just the area prior to that Pontiff stuff. So yeah.
The catacombs is like, I'm like, all right, this all of a sudden, this is the difficulty spike here is just
it's huge.
It's a goddamn cliff.
It's weird, yeah.
So I could see that being a turnoff, but yeah, like, and then we're totally going back and making my argument sound bad to Jeremy that this game isn't.
It's not hard at all.
No, I'm not saying that it's a bad game or that it's just unfairly hard, because it is a difficult game, and there are those people who enjoy those difficult games like you, Evan. I guess you're, I don't know, sadistic or some kind of masochist or something, that you just revel in this pain, which is fine. That's all great. It's just not for me. I love Bloodborne. I made it, and I've said this like 100,000 times. I made it about halfway through, and I got too scared, so I decided to not finish it. I want to go back and finish it, but I'm just scared of the game. Not because it's hard, but because I'm actually afraid of the game, which is weird. And I want to play Dark Souls 3 because I've heard it's an amalgam of Bloodborne and I think the first Dark Souls, which sounds cool.
And there's less spiders in Dark Souls 3, which is an important thing to know.
Great.
Less. Not to say there are none. There are less. Fucking spiders. I fucking can't deal with those.
Yeah, spiders are horrible. I hate spiders. But yeah, Dark Souls, it's just not my it's not my cup of tea, really. I enjoy what From Software does, and I think that they're fantastic developers. It's just not for me.
I mean, and a lot of people say that too. They'll say like, "Oh, I know it's cool, but it's not for me." And I think
and I said that. I totally said
that's
that. That's
fair to say that, but I think that's totally like with some games they are not for some people, and I think Dark Souls is for everyone really. If they just there's a lot of preconceived notions of what it is, and our whole marketing campaign is built on like, hey, are you ready to just get fucked up? Like,
the fan base is half the problem too. The fan base makes it sound like it's the super hard like MLG tier game.
Well, there's a sort of zeitgeist about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I blame the fans for that. Like the sort of mythology that built up around that, the whole get good thing.
So much
I
fun.
will say that if you don't have really good, like I have really, really good reflexes. Like that's just a thing for me. I've always had pretty fast reflexes for gaming and stuff. So for me, the reason I got into Bloodborne first is because that was a game where reflexes were the important thing. Parrying and rolling are very much timing-based things, and if you can get into that, then you're going to be a lot better at that game than you are otherwise. So I found that going through that game, I was like, oh, all right, yeah, I can get into this. And then Dark Souls 3 is the same way for me. I don't know, I found that I'm only able to get into this because I thought that way. I thought, oh, these aren't for me. Like, I have friends that are really into them, but they seem insane. I've seen the videos people put up on YouTube saying this game's super hard, and I believe them. And then I got a free copy of Bloodborne, went into that, thinking I was going to hate it, and was like, oh, hey, wow, this combines like some of my favorite things about video games with really, really cool art and level design. This is fucking dope.
Yep.
I don't know. I've fallen in love with this thing, and I'm like, standing up, preaching to the pulpit, and being like, hey, like, everyone play this. This is actually really cool.
Maybe one day I'll play it.
And I mean, like, especially with Bloodborne's, giant explosion in popularity really quick, with people that, weren't Souls players and stuff. Then, turn around, Dark Souls 3 has a ton of new players. Like, the community is bigger than ever. Which kind of sucks because, yeah, there's people that have played Bloodborne, and like, they come into Dark Souls 3 and they're like, yeah, I understand everything. And it's like, not really. I mean, you missed the first 3 games about, as they...
Oh, you mean plot-wise, yeah.
Not even, like, plot, just as they built, like, how these games are played now and, like, what's going on and, how this world works. And they're like, no, I get it. And you're like, no, you don't really
I guess. I mean, the skills I came into this game with are skills I pretty much exclusively built in Bloodborne. I have played a little bit of the other Dark Souls games. I went back to 2, like I talked about, I think, on the last episode of Chatter. But, I found that skill set was definitely enough for me to get into this game. Like, parrying is still something I kind of am learning. I learned how to parry in Bloodborne, and this is slightly functionally different.
Yeah, it's way different, yeah.
But, I mean, it's the same concept. It's still you time something on the left side of your controller, and it stagger a dude. So, in that sense, it's the same. But, yeah, no, definitely the timing is different, and the concept is different because the shield and the gun and whatever else. But I've definitely found, if you got through Bloodborne, okay, you know how to roll, you know how to swing a sword, you can use that and beat Dark Souls 3 for sure.
Yeah, and then someone will come in with more knowledge of, because, Bloodborne,
someone will invade your ass and teach you that you're bad.
Part of my problem was that it felt so constrained, like, just how it played. With, there's like, 12 weapons or some shit in that game, and in Dark Souls 3 there's probably like 60 just melee alone, and some of them do crazy things now with the weapon arts, which are fun and different, and they add some kind of cool, layers of flavor to combat from time to time. And someone will come in with, that set of thorns, and you're like, they're rolling into you, and you're like, why am I dying? And you're like, I don't understand what's happening. And you're like, oh, his armor is covered in spikes, and it hurts me when I get hit by it. Or like, why is this katana building this meter, and then your health goes away because you just got bled by like a katana set?
My character looks so fucking homeless, by the way. my armor set is like rags, and then I'm wearing the skull mask, and my character has long hair. So I just look so raggedy. I occasionally see phantoms of other players looking all snazzy. And I have a lot of armor sets. I just like the stats on mine. So it's like, I just go through the game looking like a homeless person. I like to maybe just, at some point, say fuck it and just play Fashion Souls.
Dude,
and
that's
wear
what it's
whatever
all
I think
about.
looks good.
That's what it's all about.
For now, I like the stats on my stuff.
That was the thing that, it was especially awesome in Dark Souls 2 because there were so many items in Dark Souls 2 that the fashion is what it's all about, really. Like, there was one fight, I think, in my first playthrough where I built some resistances for, I can't remember who it was exactly, but, and then you look like a crazy street vampire homeless person with, like, I'm wearing the top set of this nice, like, gown, I'm wearing a crown, and then some nice, leather boots with weird cut up pants, and you're like, nothing makes sense anymore. But then you get some awesome fashion, and you're like, stats, who even gives a shit? I'll look awesome. That's what it's all about, really, is coming in, you invade somebody and you look super badass, and they might kill you because you suck, but you looked awesome doing it.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I appreciated, like, especially when you get towards the end, like, once you find, like, all the ashes, like, there's tons of, like, awesome armor and awesome stuff, compared to, like, Bloodborne, where it's like, man. Oh, here's a Scarecrow Halloween costume. Here's a different Scarecrow Halloween costume.
Yeah, that was a game where I found a weapon, like, 5 hours in, and I found a top piece that I was like, cool, and then that was 80 hours. Like, and with this one, like, I'll watch a stream of, like, one of the guys who's, like, really big in the Dark Souls community, and he's using some sword I've never seen before. Whereas in Bloodborne, I saw everything, in 5 hours.